Views and opinions expressed by Edwin are Edwin and Edwin's only, all right? Not of his sponsors, employers, baby mama, anybody he went to school with, anybody he owe money to. With that being said, enjoy the video. Oh my goodness, what's going on, everyone? Edwin Pagan here. Thanks for joining me on the Word on the Road podcast, your weekly technology care package, man. I decided I had a little free time today. I want to do a little bonus episode for Friday just to get it out the way, just in case I can't push one out next week. So I want to push one out today. So with that being said, if you're new to the podcast, this is a weekly technology podcast where I take articles that I find on the internet, usually technology related. I give you my insight, my analysis on them. I break them down for you, and then I send you on your way more informed and more educated on the things going on the interwebs, man. But with that being said, I hope everyone's having a good Friday, man. Hopefully this drops on Friday, but I hope everyone's having a good Friday, bro. I just got the worst news in the world. It's official. Florida's back on lockdown. Yep, they closed all the bars. Bars are no longer allowed to serve alcohol in Florida, which makes me wonder, why the hell are they going to be open? What are we doing, poppers in the bars? I mean, listen, I get it, the spread, I get it. So it's one of those things that's like, you got to deal with it, but there's just something about the idea that they tell you can't drink alcohol at the bars that just like makes me want to go out and drink some more. I don't even drink like that. I love wine because I'm like a female at heart, but it's something about them shutting down like the wine or the bars that's like, well, damn, bro, what am I supposed to do now? But especially because I do stand-up comedy, and so like you can't, we do comedy at the bar. People drink alcohol at the bar. There's coffee lounges. We do stand-up comedy at sometimes, but those coffee lounges are also closed. So it's like, bro, what do they want us to do? You know what I'm saying? But I get it. We got to stop the spread. It is what it be. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, bro, I hope everyone's doing good, man. I'm having a good week. I'm just getting ready for next week. Have a project that I'm going to be working on. So I might not be putting out as much content, but I'm definitely putting out the podcast every single Wednesday. That's a fact. Just because I've been able to get everything set up perfectly. So. And then I'm doing, look for the hacking videos, not the hacking, the wireless security videos I'm putting out as well. If YouTube doesn't decide to take them down, man, because it's crazy, bro. I put a video out, man, like it takes me a long time to make videos, like tutorial videos. And I know this podcast is about news, but like it takes me a long time to make these tutorial videos, right? Especially the ones that are related to hacking, because it's like, it's proof of concept and it never works on the first try. And so trying to get it to work on the first try and then getting it captured on camera, it takes forever, bro. And then when you post it and YouTube's like, nah, bro, this violates our terms of use or whatever, it makes my job or my life a lot worse. But I'm still putting out there. And to me, I think like after I reach a certain following, I think YouTube is not going to flag the videos as much, but I'm constantly having to appeal my videos. And I'm not saying it's race related, and I'm not saying it's because of my color, and I'm not saying it's because of how I look like, but I have a feeling that when I put the word hacking in this little face right next to it, it's kind of like inciting people to commit crimes. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I genuinely enjoy information security. A lot of people don't understand that aspect of me. Like, I genuinely love this stuff. Like, I love the idea of like how people figure out ways to hack into things. I love cybercrime, not the victims of it, because obviously there's victims, but when you figure out the creative ways that people use to like make money, to scam people, and to do all this other stuff, bro, like I absolutely love that shit. And like I don't applaud it, because I'm not about that life at all. I love being free, bro. As someone who got arrested at 17 and for hacking and was investigated for like a year after that, I'm all set with being in trouble with the cops. But I love seeing the ways people come up with stuff, especially because like people call me a hacker sometimes. Like, bruh, the people that are out there that are like a gazillion times more smarter than me, it's like the stuff that they come up with is pretty gnarly, bro. So with that being said, man, what else did I want to talk to before we got into the stories? Outside of that, man, make sure to subscribe to the channel and all that good stuff. And with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the stories, man. We'll cut this one, or we'll try to keep this podcast short since it is a bonus episode. So with that being said, man, all the articles discussed today will be available in the description below. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, it's in the bio of the podcast, man. But with that being said, guys, first article of the day is coming from the fine folks at BuzzFeed.com, which is Boston just banned its use of government use of facial recognition technology, bruh. Boston being the first one of the few states to actually say nah, fam, or cities to say nah, fam, can't do it. And one of the reasons that I thought was very interesting that they were citing it was because the ability not to identify accurately African Americans and Asians, because facial recognition recognition. Apparently, the algorithm has trouble identifying black people and has trouble identifying Asians. And so it's going to cause an issue where people are being pulled over or being identified as a suspect based on facial recognition technology. But turns out that like you look like another black guy. So it's like almost like this idea of like, well, police are going to start making even more mistakes by utilizing this technology, man. So they did talk about like they won't be storing it, the information or using it, and they're forbidden from actually associating with any companies that have that. The only thing they're allowed to do is I think it was the only thing they were allowed to do is if like the FBI sends them information on a suspect that they obtained information based on facial recognition technology, then they're able to pursue that suspect. But they are no longer allowed to use facial recognition in Boston, man. And this is really interesting to say the least. And the reason it's interesting is because a lot of technology, especially when it's deployed to law enforcement, they treat it like it's never wrong. You know what I'm saying? Police and law enforcement, they trust their technology. And they have to depend on their tools. And this actually reminds me, the use of facial recognition, it reminds me of a couple years ago, I want to say like 10 plus years ago, there was a science or this device detected, or this device created by some company or some guy, which basically was, I believe it was like, it was like a lie detecting machine, but it was based on voice recognition. It said it's a voice analyzer, and it can detect deception based on someone's voice. And so police were using this shit in like in interrogations for suspects, and suspects were saying, "I didn't do it," but police were like, "Well, you took this polygraph test that's voice based, and the machine is saying that it was you who did it." And like the police took the word of the machine instead of the suspect, and then there was a lot of people who were not. Who were innocent, who were told that they were guilty because the machine said so. And I think what happened was that like it turned out that the machine that designed this voice recognition lie detector test was a complete garbage technology. It wasn't real. It was all guessing, and so it turned out to be a complete sham. And that's one of the reasons why, like for example, polygraphs and lie detector tests are not admissible in court. And it's kind of the same thing that's going to go on with facial recognition. There's too many errors with it. There's too many things that could falsely identify the wrong person, and you don't want police, kicking the wrong door, and especially during these times, kicking the door into the wrong person's house. So it's good to see that they're actually making legislation now for things like facial recognition and telling cops, hey, listen, the technology's not quite there yet, because again, there's such a huge market for defense, and there's such a huge market for law enforcement technologies and crime fighting technologies, right? And a lot of law enforcement agencies are just ready to jump in on it, but we have to make sure that the technology works correctly, and a lot of these companies are just out here trying to make that quick buck. So with that being said, man, that article is coming from the fine folks at BuzzFeed.com. All right, man, so next story is coming from the fine folks at TheVerge.com, and this actually just posted today, which is Microsoft to permanently close all its retail stores, man. So these locations are, I think it said that there's only a couple locations they're going to keep open, and I think in New York, London, and Sydney, where it'll be like a demo store only where you can see your stuff. But after that, they're going to be closing down all the stores. So if you're a Microsoft fanboy, if you're a fan of the Microsoft store, well, they're closing down the stores. And well, what's weird about this is that like I think that retail is slowly but surely it's going away, and I think that like the idea of like what Amazon does as far as like everyone just orders and everything gets shipped to your house, that's pretty much what people are doing when it comes to electronics. Like I think that like with internet websites and with websites, you can pretty much see the product in its entirety. And with things like YouTube, you pretty much know that you're going to get that product. You don't really need to go to a store and get it. And with Amazon offering next day shipping and all those good stuff, why would you even need to go to a store? So I think that like although what Microsoft was trying to do, which, have their own store to try to compete with Apple, I think Apple has more of a reason, right, to have a store because, you have the Genius Bar, you have like the classes that they teach, you have Apple products, you can get get support for them there, versus Microsoft, which is like, well, there's this huge library of products that they have that are not necessarily coming from Microsoft, but they're coming from other companies that you can't exactly bring a computer into Microsoft and say, can I get support on it, versus Apple, where you can walk in there and if you have the warranty, etc., you can get support on that device. I think I've been to the Microsoft store a couple times, and it was pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie to you, the customer service was really good. I think they were like, I think I got there and they're like, you want a bottle of water, and you got to kind of see all these Microsoft products, but it just doesn't have that same experience that you see at the Apple store. And I think it was cool because like, not cool, but I think it was, when I went there, it was dope because they had like gamer setups, and they had like the gaming chairs and stuff like that. And I think there's definitely a market for that, right? So instead of having like a Microsoft store, you can have like a store for gaming, for like gaming products, right? So like gaming chairs, gaming computers, gaming monitors, etc., in that niche market that there is for gaming. But to just have a store completely dedicated to Microsoft, it's like, I don't know, especially when the computers are like $1,000+. And I really do think that most people are not spending that kind of money on a Windows computer. People can justify spending $1,000 on a Mac. It's very hard to tell someone, hey, do you want to spend $1,000 on a Windows computer? Because they're like, well, I could spend $1,000 on a Mac. Why would I spend it on a Windows computer? One is prettier, one is not. I think most people who do have those, $1,000 sub notebooks from Microsoft, I think they get them from work. I really do. I don't think anyone's going out of their way to spend $1,000 on a Dell laptop unless it's for gaming, which is kind of why the point I bring to like, why doesn't Microsoft just kind of gear itself towards putting out gaming computers and all that other stuff. We're having a store for that versus just having a store that showcases, a small amount of Microsoft products, the Surface tablets. Because that's literally all I saw there was like the Surface tablets, the Surface Pro books, and I think I saw some phones, but they were like Nokia. So it's like, why do they even have a store? Especially with Corona, why are they even trying to keep stores open? So with that being said, guys, next article is coming from the fine folks. Remember, this article is at theverge.com. But last but not least, last article is coming from the fine folks at macrumors.com. And I thought this one was really interesting. The Tik-Tok app is showing that. All right, let me start over again, man. I gotta start over again. All right, here we go. The Tik-Tok app was caught accessing users' clipboards by iOS 14. So basically, what happened was Apple has released what they call iOS 14, which is in a beta version. And so some beta testers were using the application, and one of the privacy features that this application or that iOS 14 has is it alerts users when an app is trying to read your clipboard. And so basically the same way when you try to use a certain app that requires the use of your location, the iOS 14 update, which is a beta right now, gives you the ability to see if something is accessing your clipboard. And what they found was that the Tik-Tok application was constantly trying to access the clipboard of the user's phone, right? So it says Tik-Tok users who upgrade to iOS 14 quickly notice a constant alert and warning them that Tik-Tok was accessing the clipboard every few seconds. After being caught, Tik-Tok says that it's removing the feature, man. Now, I had recently done a video about this where I said, is Tik-Tok spying on people? Because, there is all these rumors circulating around, right? That since Tik-Tok is a Chinese-based application, right? They're a Chinese government-based application. They have to comply with government regulations and etc. And the government's like, yo, we want that data that you're accessing. And so there's been this long-standing rumor that Tik-Tok is spying on its users, right? Even though the application off rip has access to your microphone and has access to your camera because it's a video making app, right? And so the suspicions were there, but people were like, This kind of further solidifies the suspicions that people have that Tik-Tok is accessing your clipboard. And you might say, well, what is the clipboard? So whenever you try to copy and paste something within your iPhone, clipboard is where it's stored at. It's temporary memory. So for example, if you copy an address on your SMS application, like someone sends you a message, they send you their address, you copy it and then you paste that into your Maps application. Before it went to your Maps application, it was copied, it was stored on the clipboard, and from the clipboard it went to Maps. And so what Tik-Tok has been doing it's been accessing that clipboard on your on your phone, and that can lead to a lot of things, because if you're using things like password managers, or if you're using things like if you're copying and pasting sensitive information, this application can literally access that information, and that's where you start seeing a lot of issues, because that's like borderline borderline key logging, in my opinion. It's almost at that point where it's actively seeing what you're typing on your device when it shouldn't be doing that, right? And so TikTok has said that they'll be removing the feature, and they said this was for TikTok, this was triggered by a feature designed to identify repetitive or spammy behavior. So they're saying that like they had this feature built into the phone in order to identify if if you're trying to spam with it. But I think it's very suspect. I really do. I think it's suspect, and I think it's crazy because the only reason people were able to detect this is because they were using a beta version of iOS 14. So up until this beta version of iOS 14, TikTok has had a continual access to your clipboard without you even realizing it, and that does cause for some concerns. But at the end of the day, right? I think at the end of the day, the TikTok application is entirely too popular. It's entirely too big, to the point where I think most people do not care what that application is doing in the background. It's gonna be very hard to tell people, hey, this application is Chinese based, blah 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 blah, don't use it. And people are gonna be like, well, no, because I spend hours upon hours on TikTok. I don't care what you guys think. They can take my data. I don't care. I think people don't yield those warnings. It would be very interesting, and it'd be very pivotal to see if there was government intervention on this, right? Meaning the same type of action we saw taken by the U.S. government against companies like Huawei when Huawei came out, when the U.S. said no Huawei phones allowed in the States because of the suspicions and the fear that there was malware being installed on these phones to use to monitor civilians. The government put a stop to it. Google said we're not allowing Huawei phones to support Android anymore, or Android Play Store. It completely eliminated Huawei's phones from the market. I would be interested to see if the government does this with the application TikTok, because they already did it with not allowing it on government phones. To see them take a full measure or a full sweep and say, you know what, no more TikTok. I think we might that might actually cause for another protest straight up, because I think that like people don't like when government intervenes, but at the same sense, I'm like, I still think people are going to use the TikTok application. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing with like Google. It's the same thing with Facebook. Like people know that the application is spying on you, not spying on you, but it monitors you and knows where you've been. It's collecting your data, but we still continue to use it. So I think good luck with getting people to get off of TikTok, but I think it would be really, really interesting if the government decides to intervene in this situation and say, you know what, no more TikTok, guys. It's just too risky of a business, man. But all right, man. That's all I had to say about that, man. Kept this podcast under 20 minutes, man. With that being said, guys, all the articles discussed today are available in the description below. And if you're listening on Spotify, there they are in the bio and all that good stuff, man. With that being said, guys, I appreciate everyone who's been listening to the podcast. Make sure to subscribe and like, guys. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. And until next time, guys, my name is Edwin Pagan. I appreciate y'all. Take care. Peace.
Guys, what are you doing?
Watching my dad's channel.
Watching your dad's YouTube channel?